What's up, folks? Brandon Bicasso here. In the last video, I got my Indian Scout Bobber 60 from the auction lot, and now I'm going to be making more progress rebuilding it. First, I got to get it washed, get some of this auction dirt off. Then I'm going to try to power the bike on. It is currently back there on the charger. The battery was completely dead. And then I'm going to go over all the damage that I can visually see on the bike. And of course, once you start digging in, you find more damage. But let's jump straight to it. First thing I need to do is tape off this fuel line temporarily because it does appear to have water in it. So we're going to try to keep some of this stuff dry. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna do it just yet. I'm not gonna just directly spray water on this, but I still don't want this air filter to get wet. Because under here is the throttle body, and if water gets in the throttle body, and we cut the bike on and then it lets that water into the cylinder, that's going to be another problem. I guess it's a good time to see if those head seals actually work. There's water in there. worked out perfectly. Still dusty in there, but did his job. Whew. All right, that was some work. It was satisfying. We got it done, but man, it is a little chilly out here. But now that we got the bike washed and cleaned up a little bit, it wasn't perfect, but we just want to get a lot of that oxygen dirt off so we can kind of see what's going on with the bike. I don't believe that the engine is going to have any leakage, but we're going to see all the damage that this bike has. Starting off in the rear, we're missing the fender, the subframe, the signal lights, the signal light bracket. We're also missing the license plate assembly that sits on this side. We can go aftermarket, or I can try to make one. We'll see. These are GP shorties, I believe. We have one little scuff there, not that big of a deal. We also have that piece there that typically goes to the stock exhaust. People take that off and they just leave the bracket there. You can cut it off, but it makes sense to kind of just leave it on there. The suspension springs look to be okay. Coming around this side, the suspension spring looks to be okay. There's one little scuff right there, not that big of a deal. The belt looks to be okay. It looks to be in alignment. Rear tire still has some life on it. This is a Michelin Commander 2. Looks good, lots of tread. This is a 150. I probably will upgrade that to at least a 180. I would love to try to do a 200. We'll see about that. This part of the frame looks to be okay. Exhaust has one little scuff right there. Engine, beautiful, looks to be perfectly fine. No scrapes, no leaks. The foot control assembly for the right side looks to be okay. Coming up here to the battery area, everything looks to be okay in here. Just a little bit of dusty. I still have the lines taped off. These are the I think one of these, I think it's fuel vapor and canister line, fuel line. I ended up putting some holes in there. I think that's water in there, but we just don't want to trap fuel and it can't breathe. This is the electrical line for the fuel pump. Everything seems to be okay. Air filter, it's a little dusty, obviously, because it's been exposed for how many every days the bike sat on the lot. We can change out one of these, either go K&N, Trask, or aftermarket, or I could just go with the stock one, depending on what we're going to do. Coming up to the top here, everything up here looks to be okay. No dings or bends. This is one of the big reasons I got this bike, is because I knew the brakes would work. I could get it off the truck easier, and the controls, which are very expensive for these bikes, they both seem to be 100% intact. That saves money. Coming around to the front, radiator shroud looks to be okay. That's the stock radiator shroud. Signal light, a little twisted. It's my neighbor. Okay, signal light looks to be a little twisted. No scuffs really. This just kind of goes back into place. Just tighten it down. So the signal lights are actually good on both sides. The front fender, this is where it gets kind of interesting. So there's something weird going on here. I don't know if the tire or the wheel is off, but the fender's definitely off. So worst case, the fender is bent because the fender is more expensive, or the cheaper route could be that the axle's bent. That's easy. I'm going to take the front end off anyway, because coming up here we have a broken upper triple, and we also have a scuff on the right fork right here. Typically you can have these repaired. I don't think that would be that much of a problem, because this isn't the part that's typically going up and down. It's just contained within the upper triple. We'll see. Worst case, I disassemble the fork and change that out. Coming down here, I don't know if this was taken off. A lot of people take the reflectors off. They didn't. If they did take it off, they didn't bother to take the glue off with it. But if it was sheared off, actually I'm kind of glad, because this saved the fork, all of this, from getting scuffed up. There's one little scrape right there, which makes me believe that this thing did hit the ground and that reflector actually saved it. The wheel looks to be okay. Outside of this weird twist that's going on, it could be because this is not sitting in alignment with the other fork. It could be throwing it off as well, but the wheel does not seem to be bent, which is good news. The one in the back, same thing, not bent, no cracks, anything. Seems to be good. The rotor, the ABS ring, all of that on both sides seems to be really good. That is great news, which means that the bearings and stuff are going to be good, but I'm probably going to be taking this stuff out anyway. But it's still, it's good news. The lower triple, more than likely, is going to be fine, but the blunt up here, all this issues could mean that the bearing inside of here is going to be probably okay, but you take a hit like this, even though this is a cast aluminum, you're still going to want to check that bearing and probably swap it out. Lower stem bearing is probably going to be fine, but we'll see once we start digging into it. Brake lines, clutch line, electrical lines, they all seem to be okay. Headlight is missing, but all the connections in here seem to be okay. I don't see any leaks on the forks, which is good. We do have a nick or two right there outside of the other side. Also, being that this fender's off, now that we've cleaned the dirt off, there's two lines right here, one right here and one right here. That shows where the fender was actually stressed when it took impact. So this fender is more than likely twisted in some kind of way, but we can probably bend that back to where it needs to be. Coming on the left side, again, controls are intact. Some dust I missed right there. This lever is broken. We can get another lever. Not that big of a deal. The grips actually look to be intact, which is kind of interesting. Typically when these bikes, or any bike really, takes an impact like this, these are the first things to kind of shred, but this side didn't take seems to be any impact. On this side, foot controls seem to be okay. We do have one little rust spot right here. I guess when the bike took impact, it slid a little bit on this side or made contact with the ground. We can swap the shifter piece out right here, but you know, the rest of it seems to be okay. Shift link down there connecting to the transmission or the clutch seems to be okay. Left side of the engine is good. We do have keys. We don't have a gas tank, which means we don't have a gas cap lock, so we would have to buy a new matching set if we decide to go that route. I may go keyless gas cap just to save some money, so I don't have to get another ignition set up. We'll see about that. Again, coming around through here, sprocket cover seems to be intact. Kickstand works. Handlebars, they do not seem to be bent, which is really good news. Rear sprocket seems to be okay. It's still dirty. I missed some spots. The axle seems to be okay. The alignment of the rear seems to be okay. On the front, everything seems to be okay besides those few pieces that I mentioned. The frame seems to be okay. One big difference between the Chief and the Scout, I have a Chief frame over there. That is a looped frame. On Scout, the engine is part of the frame. So you can see the frame stops pretty much right there and it bolts around the engine. So when I jack the bike up, I can actually take the frame off around the engine and leave the engine sitting on the stand. But the frame seems to be okay. There's no cracks. These bikes typically crack right here and they crack down at the bottom when they take impact. But I don't see any cracks on the frame, which means we should be good. That's part of the frame. This is part of the frame. And this is part of the frame. Yeah, this is gonna be pretty fun. And for good measure, I'm coming under the bike. I didn't do anything up under here. I don't see anything leaking. That's all water dripping down. ABS module stuff in there. Rectifier. To be okay. Horn. Water dripping. So, story time. When I bought this bike, I knew up front that it didn't come with a headlight. It did not come with the gas tank. It didn't come with the fender. It didn't come with a seat. But I did ask the question, why are those things not on the bike? Because when you look at those individual pieces where they actually mount to the bike, they weren't sheared off, meaning, you know, when the bike took impact, those pieces weren't broken off. It seems that somebody took those parts off. So what I think happened is the person that owned the bike, they took their custom pieces off, the headlight that they might have spent $300 or $400 on, or the seat that might have been a custom seat, because I've done custom seats, or a Saddleman or a Corbin or a Mustang. And then the tank, it might have been a custom paint job. But it is weird that if it was a custom paint job and they took the fender, they didn't take the front fender. But maybe they realized that the front fender was damaged. Either way, those parts seem to be taken off the bike and weren't broken. So, because typically when you get an auction bike, that stuff is still there if it was damaged. So that seems to be the explanation for that. Typically when these bikes are in accidents, you don't really get perfectly sitting electrical lines, fuel lines, evap lines. I think they might have had a solo seat set up where the seat's kind of floating, and then they have like a block off plate here to cover all this stuff up. Then there's a piece here that covers all this up as well. And maybe that explains why there wasn't a fender. Maybe they had some aftermarket signal lights that weren't mounted to those stock brackets. And also because the license plate bracket is not here, So maybe they have an aftermarket setup for that as well. And for the front, you're not gonna have a perfectly sitting screw. It looks like somebody placed that back. If this thing was in an accident, all this would have just been kind of screwed up, bent and all that. So I think they just took that stuff off. All right, I have the bike on the tender. Let's see if we can get it powered on. All right, we got something. Let's see, 7,100 kilometers. I thought that was miles before. We have 7.7 volts, so this thing's gonna take a long time to charge, if it will at all. You got a check engine. Obviously we don't have the fuel tank on. We're missing some signal lights. It's probably some simple stuff. Let's see, the battery says 2022. So this might be either the original battery. Actually, yeah, it is the original battery. It says Polaris right, let's see, right there it says Polaris. And people have a lot of stories about these Polaris AGM batteries, so if this thing doesn't charge, we'll just change it out. And I even have my own stories about these batteries. All things considered, we get the battery situated and we find a fuel tank. We can actually do some type of quick ride on this thing, I believe. I'm pretty sure we can do that because the brakes work front and rear. I'm pretty confident this bike's gonna start up. We don't have a headlight, and I might be able to rig something up with that. And the gas tank. The seat, let's see. Oh, this is an Indian Chief seat. Let's see. I might be able to rig something up. Maybe 3D print something where we can kind of make that kind of sit there just to go around the block or two. Actually, you know what? I completely forgot about this elephant sitting here in my face. This is completely broken. So we would probably need to get another triple before, because I don't know how that's going to work. That's pretty sketchy. That might be the sketchiest thing I would even try. I'm not going to try that. So we're going to get a new triple. We're going to deal with the gas. Actually, let me show you the gas tank. All right, before we move forward, I got to give a quick shout out to my folks that support me over on Patreon. We've built this little community within this big community, and being that we ain't sponsored over here, we got to pay some of these bills somehow, right? But each individual person gets a nameplate on my wall. I've been building this thing out. If you're into that, I will leave a link down in the description. Let's get back to the video. All right. Gas tank. We have one. I found this gas tank on eBay. Think the guy wanted 300. I offered him, no, he wanted like, I don't know, 350 or something. I offered him 290, and he took that, and when it was all said and done, free shipping, it came out to $315. Does not come with the gas cap, does not come with the screws, and there's one little ding here, which is why I'm guessing he didn't want the tank anymore. So I can either probably just fill that with Bondo, like a little bit of body filler, smooth it out, feather it out, and then, you know, decide what we're gonna do with the color. And flipping it over, there is no fuel pump. So I need a gasket, a fuel pump, and 10 screws. So that's gonna be, oh, there's his VIN number. How about that? So sit that down. I may actually need that for my inspection, but good gas tank. It's gonna serve its purpose, and it's gonna get us on the road with this thing. I can actually read my codes. Let's see, check engine, I'm gonna hold. Got a 0520547, 520548, and a 2168, whatever that means. And a 0520547. Oh, okay, yeah, same code. Okay. While I'm here, I'll go ahead and figure out what the miles are. So we'll change this from kilometers back to miles. All right, I'm gonna go miles. We should be good to go. After I converted from kilometers to miles on the Speedo, that's 7,700 kilometers. It translates to 4,460 miles. So not too bad for a 21 Scout. Even though we don't have a fuel pump, we're just gonna sit this on here. You know what's crazy? Let's see. Ooh. How does this go on here? Let's get this off. Never done this before on a Scout. Okay. There we go. It already looks better. I'm gonna have to figure something out with that if I decide to do it. One thing that irritates me about this entire bike is this number right here, 787973363. If you didn't know, this is the Copart lot number that they give each vehicle on the lot. Typically they give you a sticker for this. I didn't get a sticker this time, so I can't add it to the rest of my collection. Thank you, Copart. Thank you for not giving me my sticker. All right, it's been a cold but productive day. We got the bike washed, looked at all the damage that the bike has, got the gas tank on the bike. It looks better already. But the next part of this, I'm gonna try to get this bike powered on with fuel. So we're gonna see if we can get it completely started. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. I got some parts that I need to get on order. But the good news for you is you don't have to wait to see that. You can click right here and check out the next episode of this rebuild. As always, I hope you learned something. If you're new here, I'm Bicasso. Thanks for watching as always. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.